I had more and more lately been contemplating suicide, and it's been having a really tough time, and not not even really expecting anything by saying this out loud, because I really don't know what might change, or if anything will change at all. And you know, something happened to me that sent me spiraling deeper and deeper and deeper into a sunken place, and really had me facing, like, or just really put me in, crisis mode. Like, um, yeah, I'm as I say these words, I'm not really feeling like, peop anyone will understand. Maybe some people will, maybe many people won't. Um, I've been thinking about a few things. My psychiatrist and therapist, were saying that if you journal your thoughts, to get outside of your head, and they said that, could help you, maybe better help you understand what you're thinking or feeling. So I was thinking about something, and a couple of things happened these past couple of days. So, like, I don't, first of all, like, I don't understand. And I wrote these notes down, and I even put it in a chat GPT to help me articulate my thoughts more concisely. Uh, that makes sense. Um, so yeah, I don't understand why I should continue living. Um, not out of a desire to die, but out of a lack of clear purpose. And like, I can identify tasks or different interests, but they all feel like distractions, like busy work, that fills time rather than fulfills meaning. And when I think about the idea of God or a creator, I wonder whether purpose is assigned to us by the creator or God or something higher, or just chosen by us individually. I was contemplating that question. Um, and I've asked for clarity, and even prayed for the ultimate answer, like through death. Um, Yet I keep waking up alive without resolution. Um, So like the past 2 weeks, really just hoping I wouldn't wake up, like maybe the Lord will hear my prayer and just take me away because like I don't want to be like I said, I don't know if anyone will understand me, but you ever feel like you don't want to hurt yourself or like cause yourself any harm. You don't want to hurt others or cause others any harm. And you feel overwhelmed with the sheer amount of quote unquote evil happening in the world, like the deception, the lies, the killing, the everything you could think of. And just how we treat people in general. And I've been guilty of mistreating people. So I've been guilty of it too. And I don't feel like the level or degree of how we've mistreated each other really matters. Just the fact that we've been mean to each other or just something like that. Just and you some people like myself, just you reach a point where you just like enough is enough. Like, why are we doing this? Now, I'm much older now. These things like me, I don't know. I used to get into a lot of fights when I was younger. I I don't know. It's just angry at the world because just things that was happening in life, man. Just angry and frustrated. Um, got in trouble in the military a bunch of times. They took my money a bunch of times. When you get in trouble, they suspend your freedom. Um, I was just angry, man, and just said some really mean and hurtful things to people back then. And I don't think it matters when, or even if it was long ago. It's the fact that it happened. It's still not a good thing. Um, I don't. I just don't want to be the cause of somebody's pain or or trauma or anything like that. I just was just praying like, Lord, just can you just take me because you know what happens when some of us get angry or frustrated or you just reach that level where you feel like your stress level is out of this world and you feel like your back is up against the wall, like especially like during times like the pandemic or like now, like with all of the stuff happening in our economy, um, the loss of mass layoffs and just the stress of just trying to figure out how to take care of the basic needs of food, clothing, shelter, all of that stuff. And so I was really, really, really thinking hard about purpose as I was like, where does it even come from? I was like, God, do we sit and we ask you and then you just assign us a purpose? Like, how does that even work? Um, and I'm gonna tell you something else that was really, really bothering me. Um, so I asked myself, what if I never receive an answer? And that thought alone just became just really, really troubling. Like, what if I never receive an answer? would that mean God is silent or hidden, or that the nature of existence simply doesn't allow such certainty? When just the fact that I can think about this, that the nature of existence simply doesn't allow such certainty. Like the fact that that comes into my mind to even be contemplated is an enigma to me. Like, it's like, what if I never receive the answer? Or even contemplating that there is no God, no creator, that this all just happened by some chance. Um, and if I may never know, how should I live? That's why I talked about, you know, what I thought about and how it just seemed like busy work, going to work, make a check, pay some bills. I don't feel like that's living to me. Like, it just doesn't feel right spending the bulk or majority of my day at a 9 to 5 for a check, which is not the point, but we only do it because the things we need cost money. And then I thought about the fact that many of these things doesn't even make sense that we have to pay for it. Like, I'm not I'm not attacking anything and I'm not defending anything. I'm just simply sharing something that I thought about. It's like, but no human being created the earth or the land, nothing in it, the air, the water. So why do we pay for land? I I totally understand a person charging for ancillary services like um you want me to cut your grass or shovel your snow, or you like the way I built my home and you want me to build you a home. But to pay for the land and to continuously be taxed just really doesn't make sense to me. But I do understand paying taxes to maintain and improve upon life, like within the city. It's like, hey, let's come have a meeting. Do you guys want paved roads? If yes, everybody contribute and we will create the plan and initiate it to pave roads and sidewalks and stuff like that. I get that. But an ongoing thing, it's like without, hey, we need money to help do these things and pay for this. And then you look around and you see things falling apart, especially in the inner cities where I grew up. And you're like, well, where is that money going exactly? Because it's not going here. Um, Again, I'm not attacking, just, I'm not defending, I'm just sharing what I'm thinking. And how should I live? Merely meeting basic needs without understanding feels hollow to me. And yet, searching without end feels exhausting. I realized as I reflected on this that I'm left with awareness of the fact that I can breathe, that I think, that I feel, but not of meaning. Chat said that I'm grappling with what philosophers call the problem of teleology, whether meaning is inherent, given by God or nature, or constructed, meaning created by human will. So, is it inherited by God or nature, or constructed by us through our own will, right? And again, like I can't go to ChatGPT or some other human being to get the answer, because the humans in chat didn't create this world and didn't create humans. Um, Now, I do believe that there is a creator. I do believe in God. I do believe in the God of the Holy Bible, or as described it in the. Well, let me actually pull that back a little bit. I believe that Jesus could be the Son of God. I believe that. I think it's an interesting story or idea, or um, but I was thinking about a couple of things, and I said to myself, is it possible to believe yet have simultaneously have the desire to test the validation or truth of the descriptions about who God is in the various texts that we have across the world? Meaning, so I was asking chat to help me articulate my thought, and here's the articulation. Chat said, well, what you're doing is you're not, um, what you're doing is you're believing in God, but you're questioning or testing the representations of God, the truth. What did it say? I think it said the truth. The truth. What is it? I don't know. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up. Oh, so I'm acknowledging the existence of God, right? So it phrased it as two parts, right? So on this side, there's existence, and then versus representation. So, in other words, existence refers to the reality of something itself, that something is, right? And so, I'm like, okay, so I can believe in God, but why do I feel like I'm struggling with trying to reconcile these descriptions of God in the various texts and written in the world, like whether it's the Holy Bible, the Quran, or any other religious text? And then why are there so many religions? Why are there so many ideas of God floating around in the world? And so Chat described these as representations of the thing. So representation refers to how we perceive, describe, symbolize, or interpret that reality. So you might believe that a creator exists. That's a statement about being. But when you examine different religious doctrines, sacred texts, rituals, and images of God, you're engaging with representations, which are human attempts to describe, codify, or communicate that belief. And testing those representations for internal consistency, historical accuracy, moral coherence, and practical effects doesn't mean you're denying the existence of what they attempt. to represent. You're simply asking, how accurate or distorted is this lens through which we're looking at the thing itself? And so, because like I said, I've been really struggling with like purpose. Like, why am I even here? Like, what for? What reason? Like, why should I go on? It doesn't really make any sense to me. And then when I contemplated, well, what if I never even receive an answer? Because day after day, I would go to sleep wishing I wouldn't even wake up, and that God would just take me. Um, I feel like I got a piece of lint. I think I got it. Hoping that God would take me. I would even take naps throughout, within the day, and I would just find myself waking up again and again and again. And for 2 weeks, this went on, and each, well, not each time, but the latter part of this past week, um, these questions would pop into my mind, like these different thoughts, and so then I would write in the chat GPT my thought process and ask it to help me articulate my thoughts more clearly so I could, journal this and start to examine it more. Um, and I said, well, um, I don't, there's many things that I could do, and there's things that I like. Obviously, as I'm sure there's things you might like as well. But I thought, why should I do these things though? Just for the sake of doing it? Like, for what reason? And that's when it started to, in my mind, work backwards to the root of all of this, which is there a creator? Like, what, for what reason? Like, obviously I believe, but how will the creator interact with me? Will it be through the five senses of somehow? Because I've never heard a voice of God, right? For all my years of believing, I never just audibly heard a voice of God. I don't know if anyone has. I'm not aware of that. I don't have knowledge of that. Um, when I began to do my investigation, and I would ask people about whenever I heard them say, I heard from God, I would say, what did you hear a voice like you hear mine? Or what do you mean exactly when you say you heard from God? And then people would describe to me like they would see a vision, and that vision could happen while they were awake or when they were asleep through dreams, or maybe they would have a strong inner conviction of some sort, and they would believe that that was from God based on their prayers. And that, at least, that's the understanding that I've come, I've, um, I was told by these various people. And so I said, I wonder if anyone has actually ever heard from God. Did the people in the Bible hear God's voice? Did Adam and Eve hear God's voice, or was it something else? Because there's aspects of how these events transpired that just internally doesn't, I'm not able to reconcile. And because I'm like, yo, if it were me, and assuming I heard the voice of God tell me not to eat from the fruit, from the tree, not to eat the fruit of the tree that bears knowledge of good and evil, right? And it's like, all right, cool. And then all of a sudden, some other being, and obviously they weren't shocked as described in the Bible because there was no text to indicate that they were shocked that this entity, this snake, was talking, right? So It's like, all right, so maybe that was normal, or maybe they had no concept of fear. All right, so in their current state of holiness or what have you, I don't know. Um, I just have to infer from the text that because they weren't shocked, okay, no big deal. But the problem occurs when the entity says to them, offers them a contrary idea to what they were initially told. And there's little resistance. And what I mean by resistance is the fact that it, I don't understand the lack of due diligence or the lack of thought here. We have the situation with Eve. She goes through her thought process. Um, and I get it. But then she goes because it's not really clear. From the text, you get the impression that Adam was the one who received this information, this instruction firsthand. He says it to Eve because she comes later, and so she gets a second hand. Now she's dealing with this entity. The entity is providing contrary information or ideas. And she goes back to Adam with the fruit, offers the fruit, says, look, nothing happens to me. So maybe you were tripping, maybe you were bugging. But then Adam just blindly takes the fruit and eats of the fruit. He doesn't stop, pause, and contemplate like, yo, because I'm going to share a few things. Just bear with me. Like, he doesn't stop and say, huh, that is interesting. Let me go back, right? Why doesn't he go back to the source, to God, and says, yo, God, the snake over there is talking about that you trying to hide something from me, like you, that I won't die, that I'll be like you. And so what's the deal? What's really going on? Is he tripping or what? Like, or is he on to something? Why doesn't he go back to God with this, to get clarity? Because I'm thinking like that's what I would have done. It's not because you look in retrospect, right? Like you reflect, because looking in hindsight is always easy. Many people say, but that's not the thing. Like for me, like I'm saying, this is my natural way of like I think about things, right? I'm just like, yo, if I get from this that this is the thing, and then somebody else comes along, I'm like, yo, all right, let me go back here and see what's up. But that doesn't happen. The other thing that bothers me is the initial conversation between God and Adam, and let's include Eve in it as well, between God and Adam and Eve about the tree. So God is having the conversation, telling Adam and Eve, hey, don't eat fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden that provides knowledge of good and evil. And where's the thought process, right? There's no text to describe the thinking about this instruction, just like at no point from the time that the instruction is given to the time that they eat the fruit, the right up to the point where they decide to eat the fruit. That doesn't make any sense to me because I'm like, why was there no like, okay, God, so why this particular tree? Why am I saying this? Because if you go throughout the Bible, all throughout the Bible, it talks about, especially if you go to Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, talks about getting understanding, like seeking understanding. There's even a proverb that says, if it costs you everything, get understanding. If it costs you everything. So clearly, the God that's described in the Holy Bible is not a God that wanted to create robots, but thinking living beings, right? So where's the thought process? Why, God, why don't you want us to eat the fruit from the tree in the middle of the garden that gives knowledge of good and evil? And do I have permission to ask you and probe about this instruction to understand it, more fully? Um, that doesn't take place. And then within that same thought process, I was thinking, the tree, the instruction is clear, right? But the tree, the because here's the thing, it's the knowledge of good and evil, right? It's the medium by which to receive knowledge of good and evil. Think about this. So the tree is identified as the medium in which one can receive knowledge of good and evil, but it's not the sole way of receiving knowledge of good and evil, right? Because the text doesn't say this is the only way. If you're thinking if we're thinking, I'm thinking, well, surely this is a created thing. So the creator created it and gave it its ability, right? And so why not go back? Why not have this conversation with the source and say, so why not that tree? Why can't I eat it? Help me understand. Talk to me. Like, can I sit down and ask about this? Can we have a further conversation about it? Secondly, as I'm thinking about it, is the tree the only means by which I can receive it? Couldn't I simply ask you for knowledge of good and evil? Do I have to go? So, in order to avoid violating this instruction, can I just come to you directly and just request knowledge of good and evil? And is there a reason why you don't want me to obtain this knowledge? What is your thoughts? We don't get any of this. Any of this. And so, why am I saying this? Because imagine my frustration when I think about having these questions, or having the ability to think and not having the ability to immediately obtain answers to those thoughts or questions. It's deeply troubling and frustrating for me. It's been that way for a majority of my life, and a sequence of events. Just one event was the straw that broke the camel's back, but it's been a sequence of events that just snowballed into this crisis that I'm now experiencing. And I apologize, the sun is beaming in, but it's very, very frustrating for me. Very, very frustrating. Yeah. So with that said, this has been very, 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 very frustrating for me um, lately, and not being able to get the answers immediately. Um, because when I don't know if any of you are parents, but at least from the perspective of ever being a child, right? Because all of us were children at one point. When we had a need, a question, we could go to, if obviously if we had loving, caring parents, or just some sort of adult figure in our family, aunt, uncle, grandparents, whatever, we could go to them, and we knew that we could go to them and they would give us an answer immediately, like they saw our need. And so I'm just I'm crying, 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 and begging, God to reveal to me, like, what is it? And what I'll do is I'll wrap this video up with this, and then maybe talk about this a bit further in other videos. I'm not sure. Just I'm just really just tired and exhausted. Um, and I don't really know what will happen next. I don't know if I'll be alive in the next hour, or I mean, or even tomorrow or whatever. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. And I'm not really, like looking forward to the next day. I'm just sitting in the moment, and just staying present for now. You know, I don't have any expectation. Like what I did was tried to strip away all of the hope and expectation to, you know, replace, like, because you can replace hope with other things like curiosity. Um, and I was probing into this too, this thing about hope. Like, is hope binary? Is it on or off? Is it all or nothing? Or is there varying degrees of hope? And chat had an interesting response about that. Maybe I'll do a video on that. So each one of these, because I thought about belief, I thought about hope, thought about purpose, and each one of these came, if I'm working backwards, day, for the past couple of days or a few days. Um, so one after the other thought popped into my mind, and I looked into it. So it might have been belief one day, and then the next day it was about hope, and then I looked into hope the next day. Then it, or maybe purpose was the first one, and then hope, and then belief, or belief and then hope, and then um, what if I never receive an answer? Uh, and so these, as the days progressed, um, that's what was coming into my mind these past few days and week. And so I was like, I'm just simply sharing the information, that just speaking out loud the information, so it helps me to kind of hear more clearly as I read, think, and then speak it out loud. So just adding that other element. So I just decided to record it, because I'm not even sure if I was going to post this to social media, but maybe um, I'll just post it. Who knows? Because social media can be really crazy too. It's like really ill if you think about it, because people just got so much to say, and I see a lot of people saying things without thinking clearly about what they say, and they hide behind anonymity. And but even though you can't see these folks, the thought process is clear, right? It's like these are the people in the world that you might run into every day at the that places that you frequent, whether it's a restaurant or something else, your workplace, mall, or I don't know. And you just don't know. Like, that's what I said. I don't want to fight against these folks. I don't want to fight anybody. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to um speak ill or bad about anybody. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to fight with anybody out here, man. I did all of that when I was young, and I'm simply tired of it. So I'm not trying to fight over objects, material possessions. I don't want to think about money. I don't want to think about any of that stuff. I just really want the answer to my question, which is, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? My thoughts so far, this is obviously an ongoing investigation, but my thoughts so far is this. I realize as a breathing, feeling being, we have these five senses. This is what I know and understand, not 100%, but this is what I've come to understand and know, right? It's like, oh, maybe it's possible. There is a possibility that the creator, God, the supreme being, decided, hey, I would create these human beings with certain faculties and abilities and see if they can figure it out from everything around them and within them. So their five senses, their ability to think, their interaction with the world, So we take in all this information through the five senses as we interact with the world. So I thought that is a possibility that maybe God wants us to figure it out, like to do our due diligence and to take these abilities, kind of like, superheroes, take these given abilities and do something useful with them. Like that, I thought about that as a possibility. Again, like I'm talking about absolute certainty. The difference between having absolute certainty and people just thinking that this is common sense. Like, well, it's common sense. You don't have to think. It's like, no, don't project that onto me. I understand it's cool if you don't want to think about it. If it's easier for you, but that's like I said, if you're saying it's easy, none of this is really easy. I'm talking about having a question and getting an answer and having absolute, certainty. And I I realized because I grew up in the projects. I'm not a young person. I'm 46 years of age, and I've interacted with a lot of people, and I come to realize that there's simply people who don't want to think. They want to do as little thinking as possible, and they love the distractions of social media and entertainment, so they can do as less thinking as possible. So that's the reality. I'm not here to fight against that reality. But there's also another part of this reality, which is people like me that actually, you know, want to think and get these and seek these answers. But like I said, not endlessly. Um, not endlessly. So because that's exhausting, to think about. I don't want to search endlessly. And so that's why I said, well, how long should I actually keep? Like, do we wait? Is it a matter of patience? Do we just sit and wait? And what do we do meanwhile? And it's like, oh, well, I'm aware that I have these abilities and so forth. So maybe it's about me taking what I have and doing my very best with it. And with that said, maybe God won't be upset or disappointed. Like if we look at it, I have children. I don't know if any of you have children, but if I see my child doing something and I could tell that they're doing their best, it makes me proud. It's like, look, they're trying, especially when you see them very, very little, like, they're trying to learn how to walk and they're, you know, putting forth the effort and you just see them like they don't know, but they're just trying different things. And I'm like, because I was a parent, because I'm a parent and I've seen this through my six children at different phases, it's like, that's the kind of thought process I'm applying to this. Maybe, you know, just like the baby itself, we realize that we have certain abilities and we're like, let me see what I could do with these. Like, what's the best thing that I could do right now in this moment with this ability. So, with my abilities to think, see, taste, feel, smell, be mobile, have use of my limbs, um, been battling with mental health and physical health issues, but what I have left, in the tank, you know what I'm saying, it's like, what's the best thing that I should do? So that's where I'm at today, is just contemplating that. I've been I've done quite a few things in this world. Like I said, I've been in the military. I've worked various odd jobs, whether it's warehouse or restaurant, customer service, hard jobs, dirty jobs. I was a software engineer for the past 10 years. I've been an investor for past 10, 13 years or so. Invest in real estate, stocks. I've made money across the board. I've earned six-figure salary. Um, so obviously, earning a six-figure salary, I've netted over $1 million over the past 10 years. Um, I've done all these things, uh, but like I said, it all kinds of feels like busy work because none of those were my aim. You know, I thought about it. It's like one person when I didn't have the six-figure job, I didn't want to go back to work. And one of the woman's parents at the time told me that I was lazy. She doesn't know me, but her perception of me is that I was lazy. And I was like, and she was like, you need to get a job. And ain't no man should be, sitting up here living off no woman. And obviously this is her perception, but that wasn't actually what was going on. What I was doing at the time, which is an agreement I had with the woman I was seeing at this time, was that, I want to figure out something else to do. I said, and this was before I did it, I said, I feel on the inside of me that I could do the corporate thing and make a six-figure salary or something like that. It's just not my desire. It doesn't seem to have meaning. I don't want to spend my life chasing after money. I feel like I can make it. I just don't want to do that. Um, and so, to hear her say these things, I didn't want my the woman I was seeing at the time, neither my children, to think of me in that way. So I said to myself, I prayed about it, and I said, well, if I do this thing, at least no one can take that away from me and say, nah, but I did this, and so it's done. It's over. I don't want to hear it. I don't care what you think. I've already done that. So go ahead and label me whatever you want to label me. But this was before I did it. So anyone can say that they can do a thing, I guess. But I decided that I would go forward and do it, and just mark that off the freaking bucket list, even though it wasn't never on mine. But I did that. And so for 10 years, it wasn't like no 6 months or 1 year. I did it for the past 10 years, six-figure salary, all right, as a software engineer. I learned it on the skill on my own. I did all of that, but I already knew I could do that. I already knew I could do it. But people don't understand. I just realized now at 47, I'm like, people just won't understand when you sometimes we have these thoughts and these internal things happening inside, and we know that there's a path, but then there's the traditions of the world or family and community that tries to press upon us and project on us. No, this and that, and this and that, and this and that. No, you can't. Oh, you shouldn't. Oh, you won't make it. Oh, no one's ever done it. Why you want to be different? Why you want to go against the grain? Why you want to disrupt? Why you want to be a disruptor? And you get like all of that pressed upon you, and that's overwhelming. And for my life, like, I've been doing so many things that I didn't want to do. I just didn't want to do. That's not the kind of life I wanted to live. And I don't even care about money because the the it's not the important thing. right? Uh, I could spend, I could tell you, let me give it to you in a sentence. There used to be a bartering system where people, if it was the important thing, I would be more interested in it, but it's not the important thing. It's just necessary because of the economic system we live in, but it's not the important thing because it's not life. Like, I think about the fact that we have tornadoes and hurricanes that we still run from, but if you disrupt any of the conditions that cause them, then you could disrupt the whole force itself, right? But we still don't have the technology present to do that. We're still dealing with various diseases, cancer, even. Like, why isn't there a thing, a solution for these just yet? That's not poisonous and harmful and things of that nature, but actually solves the problem, right? We live in a world that just, again, I'm not attacking or defending any side. I'm just simply sharing what I see and observe from my 46 years. When you say something is safe and effective, the very words that we're using to describe it, safe, means free from harm or danger. We live in a world today where vaccines are labeled safe even though they have potential side effects, harmful side effects, fatal side effects, and people have died and suffered from those vaccines, even recent vaccines, but they're still labeled safe and effective. And doesn't really, stuff like this doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, why call it safe? It's not safe. I would be okay with effective. And I'm a logical guy and I'm reasonable. I feel like, yeah, call it effective. Say 90%, 80%, whatever. Um, but it's this whole idea behind the world is dumb, citizens are dumb, or they need to be told what to do, and we need to lie to them or deceive them in order to get them to do the right thing. And when I hear these types of statements, and I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. Why we live in a world that's just crazy. It doesn't really make sense to me. But a solution is a solution. Why all the nasty side effects? Why am I the person that's looked at crazy when I go to the doctor and they try to prescribe me medications and I say, well, wait, we haven't solved this initial problem yet. You're going to prescribe to me something that's going to cause me additional problems? And not even a certainty or a guarantee that it's going to solve this initial problem, and it's potentially fatal. And you guys aren't tracking this data. You're not tracking everyone who's taking it. You're just like, no one's tracking the long-term effects of these drugs, these prescription drugs. And so without any of this information, I'm the crazy one because I don't want to participate. I'm like, no, I'd rather deal with the initial problem. I don't want to make new problems. I just want to deal with this problem first. So if you can't help me, fine. Okay, I won't keep coming to your doctor's office wasting your time. Like, I'm not trying to be a pain or cause anyone problems, but people are looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm the crazy one. So you're saying that there's an entire world that's prescribed to this system? And then to become older and realize that this is the facts, I'm like, I feel like I'm living in the matrix. Like, this is a glitch in the system. Like, yo, like, it's gotta be a simulation of some kind. Because I why am I there? Is it not no one else thinking about these things? Like, does it really make sense? It's like, why does it make sense to think that you can purify the body by putting poison in the body. I, Tell me how anyone can arrive at that conclusion. You can make clean water by putting dirt in the water. How does anyone arrive at such conclusions? This for the life of me, I don't understand. But as I said, like I know people would say to me, well, why do you believe in God? There's no proof. I'm like, well, I could point out things that give me an indication of proof. Like when I look at the world, I see a particular signature. Creators, they add a signature to and uniqueness to the thing that they created to make it distinct from the marketplace. And when I look at the world, I see a common signature, right? You can look at the world, you can use your five senses and you can see this. Then there's also things under the microscope that scientists have discovered too to kind of confirm this fact. And that the same ingredients that make up the human body, this is the uh, astrophysicists, scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these other people have reported that the same elements that make up the human body are the same elements that's within that make up the galaxy, the same key ingredients. And so we're a mixture of that same cosmic reality, right? So when you hear the story in the Bible that God created human beings from the earth, from all of these elements, and it's like, yo, we're a mixture of all of this. We're connected. We're all connected to the same source. We all have the same ingredients running in us. And when you look at, that's one part of the signature. The other part of the signature is look at the way in which living things, the characteristics, the features, you can see we all like have legs or mobile in some form, right? The functionalities, right? The ability to see, the ability to move, the desire to eat, um, things of that nature. It's like when you see the commonality within this whole cycle of life, like the system of life, you see it. It's like, yo, that's the same. Birds, they see, they eat, they feel pain. Animals, other animals, the insects, same thing. They see, they sense, they have senses, whether they can see with eyes, or some other form of heightened sense, where through antennas and other functionalities. So you can see it's a shared signature. Like when you look at the distinction, there's different forms, just like humans, right? We have different forms and shapes and sizes, but it's the same signature. We all have a heart. We all have limbs. We all have an internal circular system, and nervous system and internal organs, and they all function in the same way. And so when you see that signature, and we all come from a singular cell that multiplied into this. So when you look at the structure, if what you see on the outside doesn't make sense, well, think about the inside and how all of this comes about. The DNA. We all have DNA. If that isn't enough evidence for you that there's an intelligent system, there's an intelligence involved in this, from the whole galaxy, the way this thing operates, and the way the weather operates, and how this becomes that, and then recycles, and it repeats the process. You could see, and how it harmoniously interacts with everything involved. It doesn't. Everything benefits from this system. And so you can see that signature is like we're all dependent upon this system. And that it shares this common signature across all of creation, right? And so that's why I say, like, that is to me the evidence. Now, how we interpret or describe it and say has these variations, and it is what it is. But what I realize now is that, yeah, so people could challenge me on that and say, well, I've never heard of a God. But if you take the time and think and look, and just use your senses. And just go do your research and see what have we as human beings learned through academia, through our research, our efforts in research, in science, biology, in the medical. What have we learned about the human body? What have we learned about the galaxy? What have we learned about, this world? And when you see that, you can identify. It'll naturally come to you at some point, and you'll see the connection. It's like, how can I look at the human body and the fact that humans find it difficult to even create robots with this same dexterity and, with the hand, the degrees in which the fingers can move? Like, so many of us take this for granted. We see it because it's like, oh, it's here. We don't even have to think about you. That's right. That's the point. We don't even have to think about it. But what would happen if you did take the time to think about it and reflect on it? So I say, like, well, yeah, I've contemplated, unaliving myself, but I'm like, well, I don't want to disrespect this thing in that way. So it's more like, yeah, I don't necessarily have a desire to continue living. And it's like, yeah, would I, if I feel like I'm about to have a heart attack, would I rush to the hospital? One of those kind of things. And like, or just kind of sit there and take it like, Lord, this is it. Let me just go. Um, Now, it's odd if you're letting yourself go, and then all of a sudden, you get a phone call, and I don't know, it's your mom or some loved one that's like, I had a thought that you was da 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 da, and I was scared, so I called you, and you're like, oh man. And so it's like, maybe you do want me here for some reason, but what reason is that? It's just like these coincidences. So I was actually in that state, and then somebody had reached out to me who I hadn't heard from in a long time, and I was really at the brink. At that point, I mean, I was bawling, eyes like dripping, just crying, and they reached out to me, and this was a couple of 4 days ago, I think it was. I was like, yeah, and so I was like, huh, that's interesting. So obviously, I'm still here, and so where I'm at in my investigation is right now I have these, faculties of thought and abilities, and I'm just going through the process of trying to understand that which I can't understand, and identifying what's the best use of my time here for as long as I live. And so I'm making use of that time by sharing this, speaking out loud, because that helps me speak about it out loud, and then also sharing it, um, for, what do you call it when, they say humans are, we have this need for connection of some sort. It's called something. I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember. But yeah, it's like that. So I thought that I would, you know, maybe try to connect. Because when I went through therapy, I go through these groups because they haven't happened through the VA, and but they only have it every period of time. And obviously, with what's going on with the government shutdown, those aren't happening. So I'm just trying to make best. I feel good going through those groups because you're talking to other people that's dealing with similar problems and challenges and thought processes like you are. And in some cases even worse, or maybe yours is worse. But other people benefit from hearing others. Just like, I don't know what it is exactly, but I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe for me it's just being able to hear other people talk about their problems and share that. Just the fact that they're able to share it to feel like they're in a safe space to where they can share that and not feel like they're being judged. Maybe that's what it is. Obviously, social media probably won't give me that, but because a lot of people on social media might judge what I've shared in some form or fashion. I can't really control that. Um, but I have this desire to be like transparent, to just, I don't want to, I just don't want to hide. It's like, what's the point in hiding? Like, I am what I am. I think the way I think. And I was trying to find out like what makes me, when you see an athlete, when I see an athlete like Michael Jordan, it's like, yo, that's a tremendous talent. See all these people, and he's like, all these talents, right? And gifts. It's like, what is my talent? What is my gift? And I've been looking for it for like the past 46 years of age. I mean, 46 years, right? It's like, what is my gift? What is my talent? You know, um, but I can tell you one thing is that I just, I just want to be, I just like being, it's something about the truth that intrigues me, that I don't know how I can articulate my thoughts about this, but it's something about the truth. It's something about transparency. It's like that's so valuable to me. And I hold it close to me. Like, and that's something that I don't want to let go. Yeah, that's something that I don't want to let go. And I just want the truth about life, about what this is. Yeah, I may not get it from other human beings, but that's what I want. Maybe just saying that out loud to you all, or just saying it out loud, maybe, I don't know. And plus, I thought I'm gonna end the video with this. I thought, and and if I'm around and I decide to make future videos about this, then what I like to do, what I would be interested in doing is, I thought about some of the problems that I mentioned earlier in the video, earlier in this discussion, is some of those problems, like figuring out cures to diseases, figuring out how to combat scams and fraudulent activities like identity, all the frauds and scams you could think of, figuring out ways to combat diseases, especially the most deadly ones, um, to figure out how to combat some of our technological problems, some of our environmental problems like pollution, um, plastic waste, uh, how to have better food, healthy food, to produce healthy food, water, and make the ground healthy so that it can produce, these healthy things. Um, and I thought that it's a real shame that we, as a race, a human race, especially in this country, that we wait for somebody else to come along and figure it out. Uh, and I thought that that was a real waste, because what it does is it disappoints us when the government takes what little we have or depend on, and then we get frustrated and in some cases act out. Like, obviously there's no SNAP benefits. There's um, this month, and a lot of people are feeling it. People have been laid off federal workers and the like. And that really sucks. And I feel like we've waited. You can see with the pandemic and even with this event, this is our evidence that we've waited way too long to wait for somebody else to figure this out for us. And what there's this thing called crowdfunding, right? And and I know like there's so many scams out there, but you know what isn't a scam is people pledging, like saying, "Hey, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in working it with in on the project with that idea and contributing in some way." That's not a scam. And you know what else isn't a scam is crowdfunding the right professionals to structure and organize this into legal entities with full and complete transparency about what's going on. Because you know what I don't like is like, what I mean is, in my experience growing up, and this is not true, and this is not a blanket statement for all churches, but what I would see is it's like, why do we contribute through tithes and offerings? The church still continues to look the same. Why is there no expansion? And how come these people don't know how to grow the dollar that they're receiving into $2 and from two to four and from four to eight? That is absent in a lot of churches that I've seen. But you can see that these other institutions or organizations like police, um, these other institutions, firefighters, they take a fund, they pull together money, and they put it in the stock market, and it begins to grow. They hire, you know, uh, firms to help them grow the money so that it can continue to provide for them. And that's the same thing that we need to do for ourselves as a human race, not through a company that we work for, that when you get X'd from the company, you no longer have it. You see what I'm saying? It's like we need this for ourselves, and we need that representation. We need the smart to hire, crowdfund the smart people to help us grow this thing, and so that it can continue to provide for generation after generation. That's what we need. So we pull together the resources that hires the attorneys, that hires the CPAs, that hire the smart people, like any normal business person would hire the smart people to do the thing that needs to be done. So that's not a scam. That part isn't a scam. And so the people, the attorney would represent the people who are members of the project. And we can have many of these projects. I thought that would be something that really need. It was time for that to be done, because that's meaningful. Families could eat without the fear of losing. Now you can just go to work because you just want to go to work. But if you lose that job for whatever reason, company goes out, you're not afraid because you have it. Let me tell you all this before I sign off. Do you know, I had looked into this. If a person that wins the jackpot, lottery jackpot, for example, right now the jackpot is like, one is 200 million. It's more than that, but your net payout would be, after taxes, would be, one is 200 million and the other is 400 million. And I asked Chat GPT, I said, help me run the math, the calculation to identify the various areas. If this money is distributed to these various investment areas, what is the average return, right, on this investment? And it is amazing to realize, to see the response that Chat provided. You can go to any investment, but obviously you'd have to pay. Some might do it for free, but to get this information, but they tell you just the same that the more money you have, the more money you can make. In other words, that 300 million can net you $1 million a year easily, it with a bare minimum investment in some index on the stock market, QQQ, SPY, whatever. It's some index, and it can make you $1 million a year. And that's not even the full 300 million. This is across like 25 million here, 50 million there, and so on. 30 million here, and just you create this trust, and the trust is you have the executor that executes the trust and manages it and puts the investments here, and it's being managed. And so each of these would produce over $1 million, and you wouldn't even have to touch the principal, which is the 200 or the 400 million. You would never have to touch the principal again. And you can make, with that kind of money, you can make multiple millionaires. You could literally give away $1 million every single year and never have to touch your principal. You can make a new millionaire every single year with that kind of money. And I thought about that. You When you think about that and you say, if you've ever been poor, like I've been poor, I've been homeless 3 times in my life. I think four, 3 times, as much as I can remember. I think four though total, but 3 times definitely. And we were once poor, even when I was growing up, when I was little. Government products, powdered milk, government cheese, all of that. It had all of that stuff, man. Um, when you realize, when you get old enough to be able to independently look up this information, it's amazing. You become puzzled as to why we remain poor, and and you to remain poor, all you have to do is do nothing. All you have to do is do nothing. Just don't make a decision. Just don't do anything. But when I compare the odds of what it would take to become a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire, and I asked Chat to help me do this calculation quickly. And so with the lottery, 1 in 300 million, that's your odds, 1 in 300 million. What that means is simple. Simply this: uh, for every 300 million people, only one of them will win the jackpot. For every 300 million. So, in other words, if 300 million people play the lottery, play that particular lottery, only one of them will win. That's your odds. One in every 300 million people. This To become a trillionaire, the odds is one. This is this country, the U.S. and the U.S. It's based on the number of people in the U.S. So it's one in every 80 million people. One in every 80 million people. Now there's over what is it? 300 million people in the U.S. I think it is. Hold on, let me double check that. I forgot what number was. Uh, Total number of people in the US. 340 million. Yes, I was close. 340 million in the US, right? So one out of every 80 million. So you think about that, right? 180, I mean 80, 160. So 320. So 4 times, right? You get every 80 million. So you can make 4 trillionaires every 80 million people. So think about that. Every year, one new trillionaire could be made. Okay. Elon Musk is on his way to becoming a trillionaire. But this could have been trillionaires before, plenty of times before. It's just people decided to give away the money before that happened. Um, but for a millionaire, billionaire, one in 8 million, I think is what it said. 1 in 8 million, I think is what it said. 1 in 8 million. Uh, oh, sorry. The trillionaire, or excuse me, to build $1 trillion company is one in every 20 million people. To become a billionaire is 1 in 3 million people, and to become a trillionaire is 1 in 100 million. So you can see, to become a trillionaire, your odds is one in every 100 million. So out of 340 million, at least 3 trillionaires could be made. Out of 3 million people, at least one billionaire would be made. Every 3 million people, one billionaire. That's 300 times. That means you can make 300 billionaires because there's over 340 million people in it. So you do that 300 times, right? So that's crazy to think about. Like, so when you think about the odds to remain poor, all you have to do is just do nothing. But you have the odds in your favor to make this a reality. The odds. This is what I just calculated this week. Just had these thoughts and was thinking about the probability. So in the stock market, you could take a little bit of money. Let's say you got 10,000, and every day you can make $500 to $1,000 in like 3 minutes. I've been doing this, so I recently lost a lot of money, well over 100,000. I made over 100,000 in 1 month, and then I lost it this past month. I took larger risks to try to exponentially grow the investment to handle certain financial responsibilities and make life easier for other people. It wasn't necessary for myself alone. If it's just me, then I would be fine with just making, $100 a day. Um, but I took the risk, and it hurts a lot. But anyway, I could talk about that in some other video. But when you all you have to do is do nothing to remain poor. But today I went into the stock market and I made the trade, and I made $540 in uh, less than 3 minutes. Right? You could do that every day. Now I made an ill-advised trade and ended up losing that 500 plus 3,500 more dollars. Um, and so I have to, obviously, if you don't make those ill-advised trades, then you know. But I tested this for uh, 6 months, and I can do this consistently. It's just that I get in the mind frame of like, yo, I want to quickly do something. Like, why is that? It's not for lack of discipline. It's because I don't care about this money. This is not my goal. It's not for me to make money. I want to do the thing that has meaning to me, which is to solve some disease, or multiple diseases, stop tornadoes or hurricanes from destroying, our homes and killing mass numbers of people. And I want to solve these things, these real problems. You can't. Can you do that? Like, can a single person do that with very little resources and money? I don't. It takes a lot. You see the amount of money people are spending to advance AI. These companies are spending billions of dollars to go forward with power. You need power. You just I f- maybe there's some other way to make it happen. I won't I won't close the door on other possibilities. But what we do understand is that, given the history, that if you have enough resources, meaning human resources, people, and the funds, you can do some amazing things. You see what we did in as far as our government with NASA, sending people to space, the technologies that we've created so far, from the stove to the refrigerator to the microwave to, you know, computers, laptops, smartphones, you name it. People are investing a lot of money to advance this situation. Amazon was the same. I've watched a lot of these documentaries, and they sacrificed receiving, um, uh, generating revenue for over 7 years, and now look at the company. Look at it. They had to trust and believe in Bezos that his plan would to see it through to the end, and it paid off big time. Now it's the biggest It's huge, and you have the evidence. I'm saying to you guys that we have the evidence from the what these companies have done. All right, so this is not something that is new, like where we're like inventing the wheel for the first time. This is something that's already been done at scale uh, across various industries. So this is not something that is impossible for us to do. But if you want to continue to have these diseases and watch your loved ones suffer through these diseases and pass away in the hospital or in your arms or in your home or get that dreaded phone call like I've received, because finding out my mom passed away. Like I said, the catalyst for the crisis that I've been experiencing is just a sequence of events, and then her sister, my auntie, passed away just recently, and just so many different things have happened. And when you hear about the diseases that they're suffering through, the dementia and the sundowners thing, you're like, what? When I hear about these things and I got relatives that's dealing with diseases in their bodies that causes them pain that they can't even stop, like the medication, and then it's like you gotta, no one knows the cure, and it's when you hear it, you're just like amazed, and when you look at technology and you say we still don't know how to solve this problem. So if there is a purpose for me to be here, then maybe I'm not even expecting it, but I am curious. Remember, I said it's possible to replace hope with curiosity. I am curious to know that if are there other people in this at this stage of life that's feeling the way I feel right now. You want to end it. You want it to stop. You want the pain, the suffering to stop, in your life and in others, and whether that's me crossing over to the other side or solving these problems while we're here on earth. I'm like, if I'm gonna be here, I want to do something meaningful. I don't want to be flexing about um, being a multimillionaire or driving exotic vehicles. I'm not knocking those who like whatever you do. Like I think that's fun. I think there's a time and place for that. Not as a flex. Like I would still do it. Like as far as like to go, I wouldn't buy one. I'd lease one or rent because you can rent these exotic vehicles. Maybe I'll rent it for like I'd like to drive a Lamborghini. Who wouldn't want to just drive one just to kind of get that experience for a weekend or something like that? It only costs like 15 to like $2,500 to rent like a Lambo for a day. Um, so I'd do something like that. I wouldn't want the maintenance though. Like I wouldn't want to carry the bill for those. It wouldn't matter how much money I had. I just wouldn't. That's not something I'm interested in. Um, and I'm not into cars that much, and I'm not into driving that much. I'd rather have someone drive me around. I'd rather create a job for somebody to drive me around because I do not like driving. I don't want to park. I just want to pull up. I just want to get to the place, get out, go do my thing, and then have the driver come. I love convenience. So if anything, I'm gonna do something with money. It's gonna be to make life convenient. I just like convenience. I'm not gonna buy a whole bunch of clothes. Um, I would wear the same sweatsuit, sweatpants, and white t-shirt every single day. I mean, obviously not unwashed. I mean, like clean and fresh. I love fresh smelling clothes, fresh out the washer and dryer. Just and I wear it just like that. So and take a shower, put on some men oil. You know what I'm saying? That smell good and go do my thing. I just like that. Um, I do that, but that's it. I don't. I love fashion though. I am from Detroit, so Motor City. I do love fashion. I would do it for fashion purposes, like social media, maybe. But other than that, I wouldn't have any other reason to buy it. Just to say I bought it. I feel like that would be a waste because I got a bunch of shoes that I bought and I'm not even wearing them. And I bought a bunch of clothes and I'm not wearing them. But I bought it for fashion purposes to do social media. But just lately I just haven't been motivated to do it because I've been going through this crisis. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this video with this and say, that's what I like to do. And maybe, just maybe, I'm curious to see if others would would be interested in doing it. And all it would take is just to say a pledge. I could literally create a Google sheet when everybody could sign up and say, yeah, I'd pledge to contribute this amount financially, or contribute these skills, um, or contribute this amount of time every month or every year or every week or every day, to help solve these problems and stuff like that. I feel like it's time for us to do it ourselves, not to wait on the government or anybody to figure this out, because that's not the government's job. I know we might be upset with them taking the SNAP benefit away, but why wait for them to pay for it? Think about it. Why wait for the government to pay? We can create these programs ourselves. This isn't against the law. Why spend time breaking the law when we can utilize the power that we've been given already? We are, those of us who are able-minded and able-bodied, we can figure this out ourselves. All right, we can pull together the resources. We can hire scientists. We can hire biologists. We can figure this out ourselves. I'm not saying that we, like myself, would be able to figure out the cure. I would work with, hire, and pay, and put together, organize the right people to help us figure this out. Just like when I became a software engineer, I didn't know anything. I started learning, and then I hired mentors. All right, I paid $25,000 my first year. What I did was I learned a little bit on my own, then so I could go get the job, so I can continue to pay the mentor and use my check to pay the mentor. So, because I'm like, if you're not working, you ain't making no money. So I had to go get the job, make the money, so I can continue to pay the mentor. So my first year, after getting a job, paid $25,000 for that whole year, out of my checks to pay for mentorship. And then the second year was $15,000. And to become an investor, I did the same thing. I paid. I paid the money. I do not have a. I know what works. You find the people that know or have an idea of how to solve this problem. You connect with them, and you help in any way, whatever, whether that's to pay them, for their time, so you can get the knowledge, information, and build upon it. So if that's anything that I would do, I would be interested in doing, it would be that. So till next video, y'all. I'm out. Like I said, I don't know if I'll do a next video, but this might be the last video. And if this is the last video, and if I don't live another moment, I hope somebody sees this, or enough of y'all see this, to where y'all actually take action. That's what I would hope. If I'm gonna hope for anything, it would be that. And if God would so be willing to let me, even if in my passing, to be able to see that, if I cross over to the other side, to be able to see that. It's like, yo, and he tell me like, yo, because you sat back and took time in your despair to do something meaningful or useful with your time, with your voice, this is what ended up happening. And let me show you what would have happened if you had not made this decision. That brings, that stirs up emotions. Like my eyes are watering now, but like that, yeah. All right, y'all.